Welcome back, fellow Blues fans, to the Free Blue Boys podcast. Thank you for joining us once again, and thank you to everybody who has subscribed so far. Our subscriber rate has grown significantly since our last upload and our prior uploads, giving post-match reaction and our in-depth post-match analysis to the Ipswich Town opener in the EFL Championship a week ago on Friday. So thank you to everybody who has subscribed, liked and commented so far, and if you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so you never miss a new upload, and follow us on our social media platforms, links to which are on the screen for you now and in the description below. As always, I'm your co-host Dan Harris, and joined by my fellow counterparts in blue, Joe Harris and Andy Harris. Boys, how are we?
Oh, fantastic, aren't we?
Very, very good, yeah.
Still haven't come off cloud nine yet, have we?
Not really. No. It's, I mean, you talked last week about kind of, it's the morning after. This is like another morning after, isn't it? Really?
This is completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Everybody knows most people know what it feels like to get to the back end of a game and even pick up a point with a late equaliser. But when you get the equaliser and then you get the winner during the same 10-minute period, is just, that's rare. It really is rare, and being honest, any football fan will tell you it takes a while to come down from that. So
yeah, it does. Yeah,
just superb, really.
Sets up for the week nicely as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. Going into Saturday next week, it's going to be, we'll still be coming off the back of what happened yesterday, but that post-match, I think, said it all yesterday with us, and just like being there and the reaction to it. But as you said, you get that winner and the equaliser rather, and you think, they're still inside you, like you're disappointed, and we'll get into that with the performance. But to then go on and win it, and anybody who was there at the game yesterday knows exactly what it was like, and there's nothing like that last minute winner in the away end, 7,000 Blues fans strong. It was just immense, man. It was unbelievable. Yeah,
a lot like from the scenes that I said yesterday in the post-match reaction, kind of bittersweet for me, wasn't it, really, not being able to be there due to prior commitments. But I could only take what I could take with the scenes, and obviously I felt like the way you guys did, obviously not being able to witness it, but either way, the feeling of sort of utter joy and adulation was kind of like there for me as well, really as well. So and for many Blues fans as well, whether they were there yesterday, we were able to witness it or not. So excellent start for us, really, in terms of the Championship. And of course, we got a midweek win in the League Cup against Sheffield United, which we'll talk about later on in today's episode. But kicking off straight into it, obviously post-match analysis for yesterday's fixture. Obviously recording this on a Sunday morning against Blackburn Rovers at Ewood Park. Saw the Blues win 2-1. Not really, for the majority of the game, the kind of performance we've come to expect from the Blues, is it really? Even though it was sort of very controlled, we passed the ball about, but it was a lot of side to side. There wasn't an awful lot of penetration in there. We didn't create too many chances, even though the first shot on target for Blackburn was their goal from their captain, and it was a well taken goal of that. But it wasn't really what we come to expect, was it really?
No, it's fine margins, this league, as we touched on yesterday in the post match, and there wasn't much in it really, and I think if anybody was going to edge it in that first 60 odd minutes, it was them. Obviously got the goal early in the second half with Cantwell, and then from that point, I think what happened is our energy levels, and obviously the substitutions made a really good time from Chris Davis, got us back into the game. They tired, the pressing stopped happening so much, didn't it? And in the middle areas, particularly with our 2-6s, and we managed to break forward a lot easier that way, and found ourselves getting back into the game even before the penalty. It looked like something was coming, and then finally got the penalty, and then the winner was obviously just the icing on the cake, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always interested to hear what Chris Davis says anyway, but one of the things he was saying about the first half is that we were in control of the game. We were kind of, the team that were kind of, having the ball the most and controlling the direction of it and all the rest of it. And I agree with him in as much as statistically that says that's the case, because I think we had 60% possession versus their 40%. But again, it gets into this kind of what are you doing with it when you've got it kind of thing. And they were very successful at snuffling out various areas where we normally get quite a bit of joy. I mean, the fact that I can't really remember what Keshi did during the course of the game. He did all the things defensively that he normally does, and he was very aware of helping Alex Cochrane out, etc. But, in terms of producing crosses and attacking threat, he was limited, and that's because they swamped him. They seemed to drop back into a 4-5-1 to me.
Looked like it.
Valerian Ismail kind of, a kind of, good tactician of that kind of thing, and that they also kind of swamped us in the middle of the park as well. At times, it was difficult to recycle it, and we were a bit ponderous as well, to be honest, in possession. We didn't move it on as quickly as we should have done. But as you say, I think as time went by, what happened is the pounding the rock had a bit of an effect. It started kind of loosening things up a bit because the opposition tire. They brought in some subs to cover those gaps, but we were still in the ascendancy. and I'm sure we'll talk about individual player performances, but key to that in terms of injecting energy was Ethan Laird's introduction.
Yeah, big time.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think, you know, we weren't at our best. But in the long run, you know, over the 100 minutes of the game, you know, we kind of, our plan worked, as it were.
Yeah, we're going to have more games like that in this league. I mean, we were saying, weren't we, at the game yesterday and even in the post-match, that, you know, last season you don't really get punished for things like what happened in the box. I think Kyogo tried to head it, but he went straight back into the 6-yard or near there. We couldn't clear our lines. I think it was Clara who headed the ball directly to Cantwell, and he struck the volley well, and it's gone to the bottom corner. And last season we could kind of get away with that. And this season, you're going to have teams like yesterday where they've set up to not box in, but keep you, you know, away from that 18-yard and press you in the areas where you're going to try and penetrate them. You know, it's different from when we played like Ipswich or whoever else we come up against, where they're going to play the game in front of us and not just sit in. You know, I think we're going to have a better chance in games like that because, you know, it's back and forth a bit more. But when teams sit in, like we saw yesterday, that game plan worked well. And the manager being who he was, we were probably going to expect that, and that's exactly what we got. And like you say, I think those sort of games, it is pounding the rock and staying patient. I think Chris Davis said at half time, didn't he, that, you know, keep doing what you're doing. You know, and Stano said that in his post-match interview, just keep pounding the rock, stay on it, and it will come. And it did, and it came to fruition in the end, and we got the points.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just one thing we've got to accept, I think, is that just because we've come out of League One, we think that kind of that's in the past now, and all those kind of, you know, defensive teams that were behind the ball is going to suddenly disappear. It happened yesterday, and I'm almost certain it's going to happen again on Saturday. And we'll come to the Oxford game. But, you know, think about who's in charge. Think about the way he played when he, you know, was at Blues. You know, you're going to be facing another team that's going to defend deep and break quick, and they've got players that can do that. You know, and they're going to try and unsettle your rhythm, which is what Blackburn did successfully for long periods of yesterday. You know, just kind of coming in strong in the challenges, nothing illegal, as it were. They didn't foul a lot, but they were just muscular. You know, and that's what you're going to get from an Ishmael side, isn't it? You know, and it worked until the point where I think they just tired and made some tactical errors. He talked about the fact that, you know, you can't leave that many people up for a corner and think that, you know, you're not going to be exposed if it goes the wrong way for you, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, this is why we talk about, I mean, we said yesterday, Dan, didn't we, about who deserved the points there, and, you know, obviously you got Blackburn fans saying, I think we deserve the points and all this. You know, in the first 60 minutes maybe, but like you say, like if you're going to commit that many men forward,
then you leave yourself open to
a counter-attack.
Exactly.
And we took advantage of that. So on the basis of that, and the penalty is what it is, that was a foul in the box. It was a penalty.
There's no doubt about it. I think I've only seen one Blackburn fan say it was a dive, which I have no idea what they're talking about.
And he knew, I don't know who committed it, but he knew as soon as he was on the floor.
Look on his face. He knew as soon as he clipped him. And Valerian Ishmael alluded to that much as a post-match analysis, not so much as that it was or wasn't a penalty, because it was. He wasn't even debating that. He was saying it was a 3-on-1 situation and we didn't deal with it well. Because on another day, at a professional level, particularly at championship level, defenders should be dealing with that better.
They got caught. They got caught even then. You know, it was, the momentum was with us, and obviously credit to Ethan Laird as well for getting, you know, across the byline and actually getting into the box, and he does that so well, I think. You know, and just to touch on Boz as well, I didn't feel like it was his kind of game yesterday. I think he a lot of the times he receives the ball out wide, he doesn't look to take his man on as much.
No, he doesn't. He picked up a yellow card yesterday as well. That's so maybe he was a little bit out of sorts yesterday. But true. Ethan Laird, I was a little bit concerned about him coming on to replace Cochrane, and we're yet to hear on the injury. We haven't heard anything from Chris Davis, inevitably, because he doesn't know anything from the physiotherapist yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But it was good to see Laird as an introduction, because he was able to cut inside, create some more play, as it were.
Linked up with Stano, didn't he? Got a few times.
He did, and he understands Stano as well. Has been playing with him now for over a year now, so it's great to see him come in and create things and still drive forward, even with us being 1-0 down. And that's what you need. And I've seen a lot of Blues fans comment on this in various videos from different content creators from the Blues perspective, but it's a different Blues team to what was last year, and particularly even the year before. We've got that extra bit of something now that we keep driving, and true to the word, we kept right on, and it got us the result in the end.
Did you? Dad Kyogo yesterday, he was a little bit out of the game, wasn't he?
Yeah, I just sense it wasn't his kind of game, to be honest. I think he's a guy who operates in spaces behind, isn't he? He's on the last shoulder of defenders, and we saw, you know, and again we'll come on to it, the Sheffield United game, where his game was great, apart from the finishing. You know, the way he plays the game, it was perfect for him. You know, they had a lot of open spaces that they were trying to come at us. Yesterday it was squeezed, you know, and Blackburn would have been aware of the threat that he offers by what watching the previous two games, thinking we're not going to allow that to happen, and those spaces were shut. And to be fair to them, they were very effective at doing it, to the point where really, we went off, I think, in the end, and it was like, well, he ran around a lot and he took up some intelligent positions that weren't always spotted, but by and large he was just shut down, and he's up against some monsters as well, some seriously big athletic guys. You're not talking about League One hoofers, are you? You're talking about people who know how to play the game.
You're playing it long like that. I mean, he didn't win the ball that many times. I mean, you're not really playing to his strengths, but I think because they closed us so well whenever he did get it, he couldn't get in behind or make any runs really at all. I think there was one where he ran down the left-hand side and put a good cross in. Shame nobody got on the end of it, but like you say, he didn't really have much of a sniff, did he? It wasn't his type of game.
No, I don't think so. And I mean, other people made up for it when they came on. Obviously Lyndon Dykes got the goal as well. So I think it was good that, we brought his muscular nature to it a little bit more. And we actually played him kind of, effectively as a 9, really, the target man that we've not really had. Like Duke did it, in small amounts last season, but we've never really had under Chris Davis, to be honest, because he played him in a 10 a lot last year, Lyndon Dykes. So it's good to see that, because I think I was thinking, as the second half wore on, we're going to need somebody to stand up to these guys at the back. And okay, scored with his foot, but it was just the fact that he gave them something different to think about. That's what I quite liked.
I mean, I couldn't tell from where you were slightly further down to the right where I was, and I was kind of on the steps just slightly to the left hand side of the goal when you're looking at it, but I couldn't tell, like with that goal where who had scored. I mean, I didn't pay much attention really. I was down the steps and I'd gone to the celebration, so I didn't know, and I didn't know how long was that. I don't know about anybody watching, but I just looked at the scoreboard behind me and I was like, it said 107 minutes or something. I was like, I had no idea how long is going to be added here. All I knew is that we needed to hold on. It was 2-1. I thought it might have been an own goal or something like that. I had to check my phone to see it was Lyndon Dykes that scored. And, it was enough to get it over the line, wasn't it? And I think on reflection of it, after a little bit of time now since the game, did we deserve to win? I think, when you look at it, because the 2 goals, it was our doing, but also they didn't do enough.
Just made mistakes. I mean, I don't know, Dan, do the kind of match stats, I think you've been looking at those, haven't you? Do they kind of back up any claim that we deserved it?
I would say so, not only in terms of possession, and I did reference this last night, didn't I, on the post-match analysis before going into the deep dive today, following the game yesterday. But I do stand corrected on one point, because I did say in terms of distribution stats, Blackburn bettered us in one area. They didn't. They bettered us in 2. But I think that was maybe a correction on BBC Sports Time, because I was checking those stats last night, so that was something maybe they rechecked. But it does support the claim that maybe we were the worthy winners of yesterday's fixture, purely because the statistics in terms of distribution, I think, support that. In terms of possession, we had 60% to their 40. I think it was something like 61 to 39 yesterday, but BBC Sports and corrected on that one. So, but in terms of distribution, total passes, Rovers completed 295 to our 428. Accurate passes, 203 Rovers, 362 Blues. Backward passes, 61 Rovers, 65 Blues. Forward passes, 120 Rovers, 118 Blues. So even that was tight.
Interesting.
That's the only area where we ultimately conceded the one more, to what I alluded to in the post-match analysis last night, because that, of course, was the long balls, where Rovers got 58 and we got 39. And then successful final third passes, 42 Rovers, 61 Blues. Total crosses, 15 Rovers, 23 Blues. So that, for me, in terms of distribution stats, supports for me that we were the worthy winners of the game, and also based on possession as well, and of course shots on target. We had more shots on target, we had more shots on goal. Just touching on that as well, Ryan Allsop, fantastic save, pulling it off towards the late of the game. I believe that was a 1-1 as well. It was, and credit where credit's due, like we said last night to Blackburn, they executed a game plan that worked well for the good 70 minutes. And I did actually see on a Blackburn podcast as well, stand corrected if this isn't correct, but I think it's called Blackburn Rovers. Other than crying about Jay Stansfield, it was just 10 minutes of him complaining about the game, which I suppose on reflection really was that some Blues fans last week off the back of the Ipswich Town game, because we felt hard done by, so I suppose we would have felt the same. But he did saying that he felt Blackburn should have won the game. I think in all honesty those stats dispute that. and I think also the number of shots on target. But credit due to Blackburn. Cantwell, well executed goal on the half volley, caught it sweet.
Yeah.
Maybe the striker at Blackburn in front of the goal on sighted also up a little bit, but I don't think it would have made much difference. I think it probably would have gone in anyway. But they just didn't have the legs to carry it over the line. And I think you alluded to it as well last night, Dad, in the post-match analysis we uploaded yesterday following the game, that even Valerian Ismail said it, football is detail. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
You've got to see out the fault. It's not just playing 70 minutes and thinking, well, we'll just make up the extra 20 by just, kicking it back down the other end. You've got to make it count. And Blackburn weren't completely out of it, even when we brought it back to 1-1 off the back of the Jay Still penalty. Yeah. Well, exactly. So I suppose I could understand Blackburn fans feeling that they should be done by and maybe feeling like they were worth the win. But statistically and really, based on the last 20-30 minutes, I think it's us, really.
I think it's the initial reaction from them, isn't it? Because imagine we're there, right, in their shoes. It's like you play that well, or keep us out, and you obviously say down the stats back up that we had the better of it. But the way that they played and get into that last 10 minutes, and you go and not only concede a goal, but then you lose the game after scoring an early goal in the second half, you're going to feel done by. And when your emotions are high, and like ours were yesterday, and we scored, for them, I kind of understand that initial we didn't deserve to lose and all that. You would say that because 2 goals in the last, literally 10 minutes of the game, both in added time. It's like you're going to feel like that. But on reflection of it, and the stats obviously back that up there. That's why I say I think we're deserved winners of the game because that the data doesn't lie. It backs it up, and we're a data-driven team, like a lot of teams are now, to be fair. And, at the end of the day, we took the points. So
and that's what it's about. And this is where Chris Davis really comes into his own. He is a detail man, and he always has been throughout his entire 20-year career prior to becoming manager at Birmingham City. It's always been about that for him. So it was good to see it come to the fore, as it tends to often does with Chris Davis, as it were. It very much sticks to that philosophy, and it paid off for us. And we just seem to have that little bit extra that we haven't seen before, and it's great to see that. And I think character makes the difference in that situation. You've got to have characters. Chris Davis actually mentioned in his post-match interview with BBC Sport, I actually read it this morning, he was tempted to make changes a little bit earlier than he actually did, but he did see some creativity coming through the team, and he wanted to leave it a little bit longer, so it kept us in the game, and then we're getting the fresh legs. A lot of Blackburn fans, including the Blackburn podcast, as I say, if it's stand corrected, it's not the correct name, but Blackburn Rovers did say that he felt that things changed for them for the worst when they made the triple substitution of the 3 of their forward players.
It was that corner, wasn't it, that happened, I think?
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic actually saying that, because a lot of Blues fans thought that the substitutions in the Ipswich game tipped it in their favour. It was the other way around kind of thing.
I felt that as well.
That we weren't as strong when we made our changes, so it does prove that they're important. I mean, going back to Dan's point there about kind of that little bit extra, and this is detail, if you want to call it this. So we all know that the winner was set up by Dimmy, it was his run. But that whole situation developed from their corner. Who won the header to get us out the box on his own byline, virtually? Any ideas?
I'm not sure.
Damari Gray.
So he won the header
in his own area.
And then he's gone,
and he ran the full length of the pitch.
Oh, he did. It was near post, I remember now.
Yeah. To get the ball, run the rest of the way into their penalty area and get the cross in. Now that is what you're talking about, the 2 things that you alluded to there, which is that little bit extra and character. That kid, I don't think he would have done that when he was first at Blues. Right? I don't, but he's matured. And again, we go through this whole thing about keeping the wrong people out and the right people in. He's the right person now.
Big time.
We'll talk about Sheffield United, but obviously something happened in that game which also kind of endeared him greatly to the home support. But I watched that this morning and I thought that's indicative, that's perfect to describe who we're trying to be now. You know, that our identity is about a flying winger winning a header in his own box and then sprinting the length of the pitch in the 98th minute.
To get us forward when we might even go and lose the game. And like Chris Davis said in his post-match, I mean, it was quite funny, wasn't it? He was a bit unsure, like, I wasn't sure about that many boys committing forward, but it just shows the character of him to go and win the game and not settle for a point. And there were 6 of them in their half. And as you can see from the celebrations, they were all there. They didn't have to run the length of the pitch; they were all there anyway. But like you say with Dimmy, I mean, I think a few Blues fans were questioning, like, he's played in the Saudi League. Is he going to have that fire still? He's a little bit older now since he was last at Blues, and obviously that showed absolute credit to that yesterday. And as you said in the Sheffield United game, which we'll come to, I don't think that can be questioned at this point. You know what I mean?
No, and it is early days. I mean, we're well aware, aren't we, of kind of early season fervour about particular players. I mean, look at Willem. last season. Like, you know, we're thinking, like, hey, why isn't this guy playing in the Championship or above? Like, you know, he's just brilliant. All of a sudden, come the autumn, he drops off, and it happens, doesn't it? You know, people make a brilliant start. You think that the best thing since sliced bread, and they disappear. Yeah. So you've got to temper it a little bit. You know, he's riding on the wave, Dimmy, at the moment of coming back to his home city. He's amongst his family, he's amongst the fans that know him and love him. If he carries on and he's still doing things like that in November and December, fine. You know it's clicked. Yeah. But as far as yesterday's concerned, I just thought that was exemplary.
Pulling away from the players real quick, I want to touch on this. I don't know if any of the Blues fans, we were unsure when we were travelling up how many were actually going to be amongst what was going on. But it took us nearly fucking 4 hours to get there, didn't it? You know, for a journey that was 2.5.
4 hours,
yeah, because you text me, I think, or whatever, and you were like, something like that, you been there. It might have been Meg, actually, my sister, and saying, like, are you there yet? And I was like, no, we're still literally, I think we were in Stafford. Yeah. We'd already been going an hour and a half, and that's not that far from where we are. So, and it was just like, it took absolutely forever. I mean, I think it was an accident, wasn't it, on the M6 that something happened. I think you turned
up, I think you were walking out into the stand to your seat with like 10 seconds of the first half already gone. Yeah, so it was a good job you actually booked parking as well. Obviously, Dad booked it as well, because otherwise
there was
you
no
could have missed anyway, and it were up to the first part of the first half.
Yeah.
So we stood at the front, and there were lots of 7,000 fans there, obviously. And the first thing to say is the support was absolutely magnificent in terms of backing them, stuck with the team, and the reaction at the end and the limbs and all the rest of it was totally justified, and everybody left happy. Mm-hmm. But while I was at the front yesterday, there's a bit of banter going back and forth between us and their fans in the stand.
It's been in the bar.
No. This is in the game itself.
Right. Got it,
So there's a bit of banter going back and forth between us and them, and usually kind of calling out some overweight bloke in the the opposition's end, like. But the one thing that I noticed, and it narked me, is that there's a lot of kids at the front yesterday, like, which is great to see young Blues fans watching the game and travelling that far. But I saw one bloke, and I heard the bloke encourage, whether it's his son or his nephew or somebody else in his family, to run across to the Blackburn fans and shout abuse at them, and I mean proper abuse, and give them all kinds of signs and stuff like that. And this is a kid who was about 9, 10, something like that. And I think, mate, what are you doing? What are you doing that for? Where does that end? These things start then, don't they? We had a kid swearing last season. We were at Blackpool, remember, right behind us, and he was only a young lad. And the reason I'm alluding to this is not just to have a go at kind of, a random Blues fan because that happened. It's because that, to me, is the kind of behaviour that grows into something different. And this is where you two were talking this morning about the incident that happened with Stano after the game, and also the guy that got on the pitch. Yeah. I think this is where that starts, and I don't know if you two want to talk about that.
I think it does. You only showed me the video just before we started recording.
Yeah, and I only came to notice it this morning because I do have a habit, as well, I suppose most of us do, don't we, really? Looking at post-match analysis from opposition ends, as it were, different podcasts and different upload content creators on YouTube from opposition supporters. But it was a matchday vlog from a Blackburn fan who was right in the opposite end at the event of this Ewood Park to the Blues fans in the away end yesterday. But at full time, Jay Stansfield was challenging one of the Blackburn players by the sideline. Mm-hmm. Ball had gone out, referee had called full time, and then I saw Stano on the floor, but I saw him holding his head. But the referee hadn't come over yet, so it couldn't have been a collision between the two players. And I noticed a water bottle on the front. Somebody had thrown a water bottle at Jay Stansfield. Now, what I will say is that before anybody jumps down our throats about it, we condemned the behaviour of a Birmingham supporter against Ipswich Town. There was an incident as well at the Sheffield United match as well. Both the club and the police have been involved in both, and hopefully that will result in bans for those supporters. It's behaviour we don't want, and of course, alluding to what you were saying there, Dad, it breeds a type of supporter that we just don't want as part of the club. It's not an image we want, and it typifies a whole fan base then, which we don't want. And on the back of that, I will say, we're not going to cast or paint all Blackburn supporters with the same brush here because of the behaviour of one supporter.
Absolutely.
Whether or not it was the same supporter that threw the bottle and then got onto the pitch, stewards were slow to react. The bloke had a backpack on. I mean, not to suggest anything, but it could have been anything. He was a kid, but he got within touching distance of Aaron Cashin.
The kid wasn't going to do anything there.
No, he wasn't. But the point is, he shouldn't be there.
No.
There seems to have been quite an upscale in fan behaviour recently at this part of the season. So early on as well.
Tensions are high.
Tensions are high at the moment. So I understand there's pressure and there's a lot of disappointment. And emotions were high at the back end of the game, weren't they, yesterday? Because of the late winner for us and Blackburn. Yeah. Probably a lot of Blackburn fans felt they deserved a lot more than that out of the game. A draw, some even saying that they should have won it. But we've discussed, other statistics suggest otherwise. And particularly the way we played in the last 30 to 20 minutes of the game as well. But it's not what we want to see. But hopefully things improve from there and we don't see it again, whether we're at home or away. But just touching on what you were saying there, Dad, about Damari Gray's graft and his performance and the character coming through in yesterday's game against Blackburn Rovers showed again in the midweek victory in the League Cup against Sheffield United. Yep. Again, that was almost kind of a contrast across the whole game. It was a lot more controlled, similar to what we saw at Ipswich, at St Andrews Knighthead Park, of course. Same venue for the midweek fixture against Sheffield United. We controlled the game. They managed to get level. One of those goals that it's 1 in a million. How many times is that going to come off, really? It was a bit of quality, to be fair. I don't think you can really criticise James, but maybe he should have been a little bit further back. But was there any reason for him to be?
I think there's a few things on that, because he's there because that's the way we play. You flip that the other way and say Ryan Allsop's in goal. Is he going to be in that same position as James Beadle? Yes, he is. He gets beat. Are people going to throw shit on him? No, because it's Ryan Allsop versus James Beadle. The point is that it was a great bit of quality from Hamer that scored. They put him on and they injected a bit of what they needed to get back into the game. And I actually think, just talking about this game, the Sheffield United game was our best performance out of the 3 games we played so far.
I'd agree.
Because while there was contrast to yesterday's game in Ipswich, we looked way more dominant in that cup game. Now, I know they made a lot of changes, but we had to play who was in front of us. And, at the end of the day, they're still a team that really should be doing well this season and challenging. I mean, they nearly went up last season. They bottled automatics last season. But we not only controlled that game on Wednesday night, wasn't it? But we made a lot of chances, and that leads into, obviously, Kyogo. You got to back him. He had that many chances on Wednesday night. And I think Sky were trying to get an answer out of Chris Davies, saying, Kyogo, what do you think about all the chances he missed? And trying to get an answer. He was obviously protecting the player and saying that, the point is that a striker of his calibre is in those positions and all he's got to do is put them away. But the point is we're creating those chances. We should have won that game by 4 or 5 goals because we absolutely had them on the ropes.
We should have been about 3-0 up by half time.
It was a joke. It was genuinely a joke. I mean, watching it, we were just like, how are we not... we got to take our chances, and that's actually what it came down to, didn't it? When they equalised, we knew it was coming because we missed chance after chance after chance. But, in the end, we just had a bit of an edge, and we did manage to get it over the line. Yeah,
I mean, it was interesting. I was watching a post-match phone-in, a Sheffield United one, actually. I think it's called Blades Ramble. A bloke called Jimmy runs it, and I'll shout out to him. I think he does a really good job on there. But he was saying... it would have been more justified if the results against Bristol City, which they lost 4-1, in the first game, and us 2-1. He said it would have been justified if those 2 results had been reversed. He said if they lost 2-1 to Bristol City and 4-1 to us, he was saying there was that much control that we exerted and that many chances that we had. What was interesting as well, and I'll quote the same kind of post-match reaction from Sheffield United, is one guy phoned in or called in, and he was happened to be an ex-professional referee, which was quite interesting. And 2 things he was asked is, 1, would you have stopped the game and produced a drop ball before Hamer hit his wonder goal because the ball hit the referee? And it bounced back to Stano, but he didn't have it under full control, because if he had, then the advantage would have been played and Blues would have continued with possession. The guy was asked, this ex-professional referee, he's a Sheffield United fan, what would you have done? And he said, I would have stopped the game. He said, I would have given a drop ball. He says, that's my view. He said, I guess you could make an argument to say that Birmingham technically had possession, but he said, I wouldn't have certainly like that. He said, I don't think they did. He also said something else which was pertinent to that game, which is centre-back, Jack Robinson, Sheffield United, shoved Kyogo on early doors, shoved him off the pitch, got booked for it, and then went, fucking this, fucking that, to the referee. And so they asked this guy, this ex-professional referee, what would you do? He said, would you have sent him off? And he went, yeah, 100%. 100% I would have sent him off for that mouthing afterwards.
Yeah, well, we watching it thought, how has he not gone for that? He kept going on, didn't he? To the linesman as well, was right next to him.
It's kind of been vindicative of the standard of refereeing we've seen in the EFL. not just in the Championship, but Leagues 1 and 2. And I'm sure there's teams out there that felt like that. And people can say, oh, well, you're only complaining because you haven't had decisions go your way and you had the controversy around it swings and roundabouts. It comes and goes, doesn't it? But it's interesting to hear that point of view from the Sheffield United fan who, of course, was a former professional referee, as you say, Dad. Because it's in other sports, you tend to hear the side, particularly in rugby, you hear it live from the referees. I'm not saying necessarily we'd need to leave it live in professional football, but it'd be good to see post-match analysis. I know they do it sometimes as well with Mike Riley in the Premier League and he sits in the studio, but it'd be nice to hear it at this level as well in the EFL Championship and Leagues 1 and 2 as well, just to get an understanding reason why a referee has come to a certain conclusion regarding a certain decision. We can understand it better because understanding changes people's perspective, and this is important. And further to that as well, just on the shout at the Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday as well, obviously they're both in the relegation zone, positions 24 and 23 respectively for Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United. Actually, I believe it's actually Sheffield United bottom, Sheffield Wednesday, but anyway, both in the relegation zone, and it's unfortunate to see them in that position. Obviously, Sheffield United have had success recently, and Sheffield Wednesday, it's just a dire situation for them. I do feel empathy for their fans, and I suppose by extension for Blackburn Rovers as well, under the Venky's ownership as well. It's been a bit of a dire time for them as well, and we've been there, we know how it feels, so hopefully things improve for them.
But as far as the game, the Sheffield United game itself is concerned, it was job done in the end, because you know, deserved winners, right? More so than the Blackburn game, actually. Absolutely deserved winners in that. But you've got to get it over the line, haven't you? And again, we managed to do it. And I think the high press
as well, and that pressure, particularly with the first goal, created the first goal as well. It brought the centre back into position right by the byline where he didn't want to be. Okay, it was a poor back pass, as it were.
Again,
got it round the Dimmy again. Work rate again. Going back to what you were saying, Dad, it's great to see. But I think I agree with you there, Joe. Out of the 3 games we played so far from the beginning of the season, that was the best game that we've played.
In that game,
in terms of the way we played.
And I think with Kyogo as well, you know, I'm kind of rooting for him really. I want him to do well. And I think, you know, yesterday, obviously, the Blackburn game wasn't really his game. The Sheffield United one and even Ipswich, I mean, he looked so good in both of those. And I think if he can get off the mark with a few more goals, you know, and he keeps playing in that 9, which I think is where he's best suited, and Stano in behind him or on the left, as he was yesterday when he came on, that'll come. And I think that if we can get that out of him, I think he's going to be an absolute handful in this league. But you've got to play to his strengths, haven't you?
Yeah, Celtic fans were quite vocal in saying that about him when he transferred, you know, to us from the team in France. But that's how they saw him operating. Just before we lose the Sheffield United game, and again we're revisiting a subject we've already talked about. This wasn't anything to do with creating a goal. It wasn't to do with super skill or goals from 30, 40 yards away. One of the loudest cheers of the night was Dimmy tracking back from the front all the way back when Cochrane was caught upfield to track Sheffield United's winger and produced a brilliant tackle. You know, when really we would have been fully exposed. You know, he'd had a free run and goal if he hadn't tracked him.
He would have.
So he didn't just try and kind of track him and kind of make a token effort. It was fully committed.
That is playing for the badge wrapped up in a single moment, that is. I mean, you know, he's obviously a Blues fan, and, you know, to do that after, you know, had the career he's had and actually give a shit a bit. Actually, I'm going to go back and I'll win the fucking ball. I'm going to move us up the pitch again because, you know, we want to win this game. And it was one of those nights where we just thought, we're just not going to get this done. And then when that happened, and then obviously we scored late on, it was like, that's exactly what this is about.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an epitome, isn't it, of kind of what Chris Davis is trying to create, or what we want to see. I mean, more to the point is, that was a fan's tackle. That's what we all wanted to do. And any fan of any club, you know, whoever you are, that's the kind of commitment that you want to see from your players.
It is.
It's what you would do personally.
Yeah, it is.
So it's great to see. But, you know, like I said, fair play to him, not just for that, but also for what he did at Blackburn yesterday. And we're through to the next round with a home tie against Port Vale to come.
Yes, we are, aren't we? Yeah. When's that date? 26th?
So that's the 26th of August. Obviously going to be an evening game. That's on a Tuesday, and that's at St Andrews at Knighthead Park.
Shout out as well. It's the day before Dan's birthday, so that'll be a good one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Messages will be appreciated. Thanks, Blue Noses. And make sure you deliver a win for me on my birthday. Big up the Blue Boys. So that'll be good. And of course, as well, I believe that is the first time we'll play Port Vale in a competitive fixture since playing them in the First Division, and I think since January 2000.
2000, yeah.
So that'll be interesting. So it'll be good to see, and I'm sure. I was going to say, would you have been at that one?
Most certainly, yeah. I don't remember it. I mean, you know, it's just one of those things. It's another game. I think we're in the throes of going through all those 4 playoff finishes, like, you know, so
it would have been about
one
that
game
time,
seems like another when you're doing that, you know. But we haven't played them a lot, suffice to say. So yeah, it'll be interesting. They did well last season. Ex-Baggy, Darren Moore in charge, kind of thing, and done a great job. Really done a great job, So getting them up last season, so it'll be intriguing. I fancy the chances. They'll come and have a go.
Oh, yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
And we look forward to welcoming them.
We do. Yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, next round of that, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully a bit of a cup run coming together, maybe. But of course, predominantly the focus is the league and the EFL Championship. But moving on from the post-match analysis from yesterday's game at Blackburn Rovers, and of course the midweek win as well in the League Cup against Sheffield United, we say farewell to one of our loved compatriots, the member of the Blue and White Army, in Krystian Bielik.
Yep.
Moving over to neighbours in the Black Country at West Bromwich Albion for an estimated 1 million. Good business by West Bromwich Albion because they've made a profit, I think, for the player that went to Bologna. Hegem.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dad. They made a 170% markup because they sold him for 10 million, and of course they've only had to pay 1 million for Bielik, as it were. So good business for them. Well done to them. And they've got a man who's going to play for the badge now. And just a quick shout out as well to Krystian Bielik, if indeed he is watching or does see us anywhere from our social media platforms. Give us a follow. So even though he is part of the West Bromwich Albion makeup now, but seriously, Krystian, thanks for the heartfelt message to the Blues fans on Instagram in the past week. For the final time, brother, keep right on, and thank you for everything you've ever done for the club.
He'll be singing "Keep Right On" under his breath when we play Albion at home, by the way.
Yeah, he will be. Yeah. So if you see him looking at the ground, Albion fans, you know what he's doing.
Yeah. He'll go to the huddle. Oh fuck! Hang on a minute.
Yeah, he'll go to the wrong players and be like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, but fair play to him. He was an absolutely fantastic servant for us, and on the back of what you say, Danny, he really does bring that bit of leadership as well. What we were saying just before the camera came on, and I think he's going to bring that to Albion.
Definitely.
And the fact that we got relegated the season before last, and we didn't know if he was going to stay, did we? We thought he's probably going to be one of the players that's going to be sniffed about, and
he talked about it in the Prime documentary, didn't he? He was like, it's not where I want to be in terms of the team in the position in the league makeup that I want to be. Obviously in League One at the time, having been relegated, and you can tell it upset him to see the fans down, to see the coaching staff down, the leadership down, as it were, and he wanted better for the club. And this is what you want, and we alluded to it, with the effort Damari Gray we've seen in the matches against Blackburn Rovers and Sheffield United. It's that passion, it's that effort, it's that drive to want to do the best for the badge that you're playing for, and that's all fans really ever want above all else. Even if you're not playing well at the time or it's not going against you, for majority of the time it did against Blackburn Rovers yesterday, but it's great to see, and ultimately it's sad to see him go, of course, and it's echoing the feelings we had around Alfie May leaving to go to Huddersfield Town, but much as we did to Alfie, we wish Krystian all the very best, don't we, as time at West Bromwich Albion?
Yeah, I think he's supposed to also be, I've never spoken to him obviously, but from a lot of different accounts, he's supposed to be a really amiable bloke. Get on with him well.
He came across well.
I know journalists like to speak to him a lot because he gives good copy, as they like to kind of say. He's always kind of good for a quote and stuff. Sometimes disarmingly so, because he was the one that said last season we're too good for League One. Now as it happens, he was right, but at the time it happened, it was like, cut that out. If you're Nathan Jones, put it on the wall in the Charlton dressing room.
There's your talk.
Yeah.
Done,
it's done, isn't it? And they beat us 1-0 kind of thing, And that's what fans like to do, isn't it? You slap it back in somebody's face. But in the end, he was right, but maybe he just should have kept his thoughts to himself. So beware.
At least he isn't. Go on, Dad.
Beware, Baggies fans. Like, if you let Krystian on the mic, he might say something that maybe comes back and bites you up the arse. So
you got to back it up, I'm afraid, on the pitch. But at least he doesn't have to get the coffees anymore. He won't have that duty with it. He was a credit to us, wasn't he? And as we say, we wish him all the best, don't we, at Albion. So I am a little bit like the fact he has gone there because they're direct competition in this league. But what can you do at the end of the day? He wants to have game time, and I hope he gets that there.
I do as well.
Bit thoughtless of him though, really, and him and Alfie, because they've left and we have to change the fucking song now, haven't we?
Well, a few times yesterday I was like, Bill, oh shit, Clara at the back. And it's like, you look around, hopefully nobody noticed, so we have to get used to that now, don't we, with Clara at the back and Steiner in attack. So.
So you know what that says as well now? They're the next two fuckers to be sold, isn't they? If you get in the song, you've been sold. Don't say anything, we're not doing that one anymore.
We've got to get Steiner at the song now, because we're going to have to change at some point later now. So, it'll be interesting to see anyway how Bielik gets on at West Bromwich Albion. echo our sentiments, of course. As always, we wish them the very best. But of course, looking forward to this weekend. We return to St Andrews Knighthead Park, and we welcome another familiar face in Gary Rowett and Oxford United. That's a 3 p.m. kickoff, so first proper Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff. There's nothing like it. Hopefully the sun will be shining down on the B9. So looking forward into it. Of course, they play today. Recording this on a Sunday morning. They're away to Hull City, I believe.
Yes,
so a bit of a difficult test for them. It always is going to the Hull home ground there. So it's KC Stadium, is it?
Yeah,
Hull
that's
City.
right,
Yeah, I stand corrected. So that's good. So a tough test for them today. Obviously, they didn't get any points in their opening game, so they'll be on it. And of course, as you already said, Dad, they'll be in our face. We know how Gary Rowett's team set up. We knew it from when he managed us over a couple of spells. Obviously, the back end towards our relegation to League One, and I think we've only got positive things to say about Gary Rowett. Really, to be fair, he committed to us as a player when he played for us, and later on as a manager as well. So it'll be a tough test, but Chris Davis will know what he's going to do to it, and Chris Davis, as always, will do his homework.
Yeah. I mean, I do think we're going to be faced with the same thing, and perhaps even more so, because we're going to be the home team this time. Rowett's no mug. He's got a lot of games under his belt, a lot of different clubs. Creditable job last season for keeping Oxford up in their first season time when they were up. Disappointing first game because they're playing Portsmouth, who, with all due respect to Portsmouth, you would expect them to be in the lower half of the table. They're direct competitors for Oxford in terms of that fight for stability to stay up and keep themselves from the reach of relegation. So to lose 1-0 at home to what you might call a direct rival in that respect, you won't have been happy with that. So he'll be out for some kind of reaction to that. Now, I guess some of it will come today. But when he's coming home to Blues, if you want to call it home for him, given his record there, as you just said, Dan, he'll definitely want to put on the show and make sure that they are not embarrassed. So it'll be a Rowett masterclass. Physical, I'm fully expecting it.
Yeah, physical, behind the ball. I think it's going to be one of those games. And they do have a bit, obviously, the return of Siriki Dembele. Yeah. Obviously, he's a tricky player to play against, and he obviously didn't fit into the way our system and the way we wanted to play, but he'll still be a threat in that game. And I would probably say that he'll want to do well in that game and get the win there at St Andrews.
Oh yeah, he won a bit of this when it's Chris Davis kind of thing. You let him go, so it's like, well, this is what you could have won kind of thing. So it will be difficult because every game, we've said it before, every game in this presents a different challenge
by margins all the time, isn't it? Anybody can beat anybody in this division, and as you say, it's we've got to expect this on next Saturday, and depending on how to get the game today against Hull goes from either way, they're going to want to come to Blues and they're going to want to get some, and we're going to expect that every time we're at home, because I personally feel more confident at home because we haven't lost there since who did we play last time? I think it was Newcastle maybe in the cup.
Yeah, it was.
When we lost there last.
The only time we lost last season was to Premier League teams at home because Fulham beat us in the league.
And obviously prior to that was when we were relegated from the Championship in the season before last. So we've kept one hell of a record, and it's forced us St Andrews Knighthead Park.
Tough place to go.
It is, absolutely, and teams turn up to beat us. And I know some people think, well, it sounds kind of arrogant to say that, but teams need to be saying that, particularly in this day and age, and particularly playing in the EFL Championship, because anybody can beat anybody on any given day. So home form is key, and it's going to be the same for us going into this season, and we've talked about it before, haven't we? But in terms of previewing Blues for the game against Oxford United, nearly said Sheffield United then, play them again.
So in the league this time, hopefully.
I don't think we've got them until a little bit later on in the year, actually, to be fair. I think we've got them before the end of this year, actually, and I think that's at home.
I'll have to have a look.
I'd have to have a look. Oh well, but of course Oxford United this weekend, previewing for Blues. Obviously the only injury concern is Alex Cochrane, but obviously we don't know more. Yes, we need to hear from the physiotherapist, and obviously Chris Davis will probably allude to that in his pre-match interview prior to the game, but we may see the introduction of the Duck.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I think probably over him, because he was in the squad yesterday, I would expect, depending on how the game goes out on the Saturday against Oxford, we're going to see the introduction of Kanya Fujimoto, because I think he's been obviously training with the boys. He was in the squad yesterday. I think the Duck is still probably a few weeks away because he's still working through an injury.
I'd still expect to see Kyogo start with Stansfield, though.
I would expect that. I think with the team that we played yesterday, obviously, about the fact that Cochrane's injured, we should probably play. It's probably going to be Boz and Laird, isn't it? And
probably Laird out on the left and Boz out on the right. Natural better.
I think Stano said in his interview yesterday that Laird prefers the right, but he's probably going to play on the left. So if that forces our hand, then we have to do that. But I still expect us to be pounding the rock, playing the same way, and I do expect us to take the points the 3 points on the Saturday against them, but it could be another Rowett masterclass, couldn't it?
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. He's, his first objective will be to keep it tight and quiet and the crowd down, in another capacity, as Dan said earlier on. So he's got to do that. That's his first objective, isn't it? A bit like I think we were talking before the start of this, about West Brom's victory yesterday at Wrexham. Big expectant crowd there. And Albion did a great job of quieting them down, keeping the ball, keeping possession, being better technically, and that's exactly what we need to do. That's what Oxford need to do. They need to make sure that they're not giving us a free ride on the euphoria front, on the crowd being behind the team, and getting 1-0 up early doors for us would be like a death knell for them, really, because they've got to come at us then. I know what to expect, and nobody should be surprised by that, and the fact that we're going to be up against it a bit like we were at times yesterday, same kind of thing.
So score predictions real quick for the game against Oxford, Dan?
I'm going with 2-1 Blues.
2-0 Blues.
I'm going to go for a 1-0 Blues.
Okay, interesting. So we've all gone for the W this time.
We have.
Interesting.
That nearly didn't come off yesterday, did it? I remember saying to you on the way up, I said, we'll win 3-0 today, and you said 2-0. Then at 1-0 with in the 90th minute, we were like, fuck.
I went with 2-0 Blues as well yesterday.
Yeah, so you and Dad were the closest.
Yeah.
It gives a shit. We came away with 3 points.
That's all that matters at the end of the day. And just alluding to what Dad mentioned earlier with Oxford, obviously they're going to be absorbing the pressure early on. They're going to look to quiet the crowd. They're going to be quick on the break. But obviously, probably is more than likely going to be Boz with the right and Laird on the left now, probably with Alex Cochrane out, potentially resting for a week, depending on the severity of his injury. But as we've alluded to, waiting to hear back from the physiotherapist on that one, and Chris Davis will talk about that in his pre-match interview, I'm sure. But I feel as though, different to Blues of last season, and particularly the year before, we've got that pace now at the back and out wide. And obviously we know with Phil Neumann as well, the pace he's got as well, particularly for quite a big defender as well. This is quite unusual from centre-backs. I feel we're set up better to defend that. And of course, we've seen the work rate from Damari Gray, the drive to get back, to cover. I think we're set up better for this now. But of course, inevitably, as you say, it could be a Garrett Rowett masterclass, and we could see it turn on its head quite quickly. But we shall see, and it'll be an interesting game.
It will. Look
first
forward to it.
home game under the sun, hopefully. On a Saturday, typical 3 p.m. kickoff in the B9. So, gentlemen, as always, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. And still a bit on cloud 9, but of course, when the week hits tomorrow, it will be back to business as usual. Planning for the return home fixture, St Andrews at Knighthead Park. Hopefully, to all our viewers and listeners, hope to see you there. And thank you again for joining us here on the Free Blue Boys podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, like, hit that notification button so you never miss a new upload, and please consider following us on our social media platforms, links to which are on the screen for you now and in the description below. But until then, fellow Blues fans, stay true to the Royal Blue. Keep right on.
Keep right on.